Due to unknown reasons, I suddenly arrived in another world. Because I disciplined a noble child, I was arrested by the guards and sent to prison. Now, my life is under threat. At that moment, a force called the system descended upon me. Following the instructions given to me by the system, I was given the opportunity to avoid death. My name is Roen, and I am a transmigrator. But I am inexplicably summoned to this place called the dichromatic world. In my understanding, a transmigrator should be the kind of person who is invincible, can easily and smoothly reach the pinnacle of life. But what I didn't expect was, because I throw a noble child who kicks over my dining table into the trash can. My brief 4-day reincarnation journey in another world is coming to an end here? At this moment, Roen is now being taken to the execution platform by the guards. His head and hands were fixed on the execution platform. He had a silver shining machete hanging from his head. He nervously recalled what had happened during this period of time. Just because he was dissatisfied with the aristocratic child who bullied him, he was held captive by the guards. Now, his life is facing danger. A judge standing behind Roen pointed at him and read out the crimes he had committed. Prisoner Roen, you attacked the son of a member of parliament as a refugee, committing the crime of attacking nobles. You have been sentenced to death. Anyway, refugees like you are like ants on the street, with many dying every day. The judge, wearing a white trial uniform and holding the verdict, looked at Roen with an impatient expression. He expressed contempt and dissatisfaction towards refugees like Roen. Executing, you can also make the senator feel relieved. Your death can be considered valuable. The judge continued to speak derogatory words to Roen with a dissatisfied tone. Upon hearing the judge's words, Roen gritted his teeth tightly and felt very angry. Although he didn't know which direction the judge was standing in, he still turned his head slightly and looked behind him. He silently cursed him in his heart. I just teach that little brat a lesson. Bastards. Damn it, it's impossible. I am clearly a transmigrator. Roen thinks his current situation is very bad. Based on past experience, a person who travels to another world should gain great power and be able to easily defeat various forms of villains. However, as a transmigrator, after arriving here for a period of time, he not only did not gain any power, but also fell into a situation where he was about to be killed by the people here. He closed his eyes tightly, feeling very unwilling to accept his situation. At this moment, a mysterious energy was constantly flashing blue light in a certain space. However, Roen, the judge, and all the guards present did not notice anything amiss. The judge seems to not want to see Roen stay here anymore. He lightly shook his hand and said to Roen, I suppose you have nothing left to say. You should leave early. Death penalty, execution. Roen closed his eyes in fear. After hearing the judge's order, the guard standing next to the execution platform immediately cut the rope tied to the machete with the knife in his hand. The machete on the execution platform was rushing towards Ron's neck at a very fast speed, making a terrifying friction sound. At this moment, a mysterious energy in a certain space suddenly erupted. It appeared in Ron's world with a dazzling light. Suddenly, the machete above Roen stopped and did not charge towards him. The judge maintained a shouting posture, and the guards standing next to the execution platform also maintained a posture of cutting the rope. The world was like a pause button pressed, and everyone suddenly stopped and remained motionless in their previous position. At this moment, a mysterious voice rang out in this world. "Hello, congratulations. You have become the 100th time traveler to use this system. This system is dedicated to the transmigrator into the strongest beings on the ground." After hearing the sound, Roen suddenly opened his eyes. System. Roen was surprised by the sound. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. He lowered his head and noticed a blue screen appearing in front of him. His name and other related information are displayed on the blue screen. He couldn't believe that the powerful force he had hoped for had come to him in such a way. The system continued to speak to Roen while showing him his relevant information. Although you are still weak, with the training of the system, you will definitely be able to become a formidable force to be reckoned with. Roen turned his head to look at the terrifying machete above his head. He is somewhat dissatisfied with the timing of the emergence of this system. If he dies now, he won't be able to use this system anymore. He anxiously said to the system, "Although having a system is great, isn't it a bit too late? Training? Didn't you see that I'm going to die?" Upon hearing Ron's words, the system responded, "The system will do its utmost to safeguard your journey to another world. You have one chance to avoid death. In order to use this opportunity, you need to complete activation." Roen was very excited to know that he still had a chance to live. "As long as I can survive from the guillotine, tell me how to activate it quickly." Then, the system tells Roen the method to activate this opportunity to avoid death. Please say, "At this moment, I am the enemy of Vandale." Roen felt a bit strange about what the system said. He doesn't know why the system would say such incomprehensible words. However, he doesn't have time to think about what this sentence means. He nervously looked at the system panel and said to it, "Vandale? Okay." Roen took a deep breath. He gritted his teeth and shouted nervously, "I." "Roen, at this moment, I am the enemy of Vandale." Suddenly, time stagnation disappeared. The surrounding environment has returned to its previous state. The judges and guards are now able to move around. They didn't seem to hear Roen's conversation with the system just now. However, they heard Ron's words very clearly. The judge standing behind Roen widened his eyes and opened his mouth. He was very shocked by this. Suddenly, the machete split open when it touched Roen's neck. It made a loud noise and turned into a pile of fragments falling to the ground. Roen's position raised a huge cloud of dust. After noticing that the guillotine had been destroyed by Roen, the judge couldn't believe what was happening before his eyes. He said, somewhat surprised, "What?" The guards standing next to the guillotine were also a little surprised by what was happening in front of him. At the same time, the guillotine that bound Roen's neck and hands was instantly destroyed. Roen forcefully threw the fragment of the machete that was pressing on his neck to the ground. He slowly stood up from the guillotine. His body seems to have changed a bit from before. When he stood up, his body emitted a magical power around him. The dust surrounding him was also blown away all at once. The judge and guards looked nervously at Roen, unsure of what had happened to make him look so powerful. After using the opportunity to avoid death, the system explained some relevant information to Roen again. Welcome to Use the System, Transmigrator. You have activated most of the features. Roen raised his hand and casually touched his neck, feeling that the machete had no harm to his neck. He said with a relaxed tone, My neck feels a little itchy." At this moment, a blue light flickered in his eyes, as if activating his powerful energy. Seeing Roen as if he had changed, the judge was so scared that he couldn't speak for a moment. According to what Roen just said, the judge noticed something was off. He pointed at Roen and stuttered to the guards around him. He just spoke blasphemous language. Heresy. He is a monster that blasphemes the great Master God. Hurry up! Kill him! Upon hearing the judge's order, all the other guards standing nearby gathered around the judge. They tightly grasped the weapons in their hands and rushed towards the guillotine. In an instant, all the guards shouted and raised their weapons, rushing towards Roen, who was still standing in place. However, Roen did not immediately flee. He doesn't seem afraid of these guards. At this moment, the sound of the system sounded again. Detected potential life-threatening hazards in your vicinity. In order to increase your chances of survival, the system will temporarily take over your body. As soon as the system finished speaking, a guard rushed over from behind Roen. He raised his weapon and fiercely slashed towards Roen. However, Roen soon noticed that someone behind him was about to attack him. He turned around gently and avoided the guard's weapon. Then, he gathered magical energy into his hands. He waved his hand lightly and emitted blue magical energy onto the guard who attacked him. The guards were quickly hit by his magical energy. He let out a painful scream and flew far away from the guillotine. The other guards were not frightened by Roen. They immediately gathered around Roen and continued to attack him. Roen easily picked up the weapon that had fallen to the ground and held it tightly in his hand. He waved his weapon forcefully towards the surrounding guards, and blue magical energy also appeared on his weapon. In an instant, all the guards around were chopped in half. The blood of the guards sprayed out of their bodies and splattered everywhere. They had already lost consciousness before they could even let out a scream. The remaining guards still did not feel afraid. They rushed towards Roen while shouting loudly, "Don't be afraid. He's only one person. Kill this blasphemous heretic." Roen casually threw his weapon aside. He kicked another weapon that had fallen next to him into his hand with his foot. He tightly grasped the iron chain of the weapon with his hand and looked towards the group of guards. He swung his weapon with full force in a wide arc at the guards charging toward him. In an instant, all the guards around him were hit hard by him. They let out very painful cries. The surrounding land cracked, and many clumps of soil flew up due to his actions.